up like taking that check from him and then spent like 3 months just crushing every book and calling every professional I could to find out like how does this stuff actually work, and putting together all the documentation around it that would need. And I set up his, and then he was like, you need to go onto Bigger Pockets and share on Bigger Pockets like all of the stuff that you learned basically doing it for me. And that was the launch of Royal Legal Solutions, because once it hit Bigger Pockets, everybody's like, we've never heard shit like this before. Like, you're the first person I've ever talked to that I really understand like how all the pieces fit together with it. And that actually kept me busy for 2 years from a single podcast with the amount of that I had from
That's awesome.
That's right.
So that, and now Royal Legal Solutions, we went from 4 people to Bigger Pockets episode was years ago. I think it's episode 109. But in the last 2 years, we've really kicked up the adrenaline level, and we've grown from like 4 people to 40.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So that's my life, man. And now I get to just try to figure out better ways to help people, which is really great, because that's part of my.
Well, that's it, man. Like this whole format, the podcasting format, man, for us, it made sense for us, just as we're learning stuff, we're just sharing stuff and
dude, you know what? It doesn't stop. That's what the craziest part for me is. It never stops. Like the ability to have a conversation that's a deep conversation with people about wherever you're at, like that communicates to a certain segment of the audience. And I go hang out with these bunch of dudes that it's like this almost like a fraternity, but for rich real estate dudes called Go Abundance. And these guys have already made enough net worth where they're actually like, hey, what is there more to life than just making money? Because like we hit the money piece and we're still miserable. So what's up? Like, what else am I supposed to do? So they have different pillars around, like one's around your money, the other one's around your like having your family, bucket list adventures, age-defying health, of like what they think are the core things that make a great life if you focused on those things to build them. And hanging out with like different levels of dudes there, I learned so much more about the next level. And then I raise up my level a little bit, and then it allows me to understand what the level above that. And then the podcasting is so great, just like you said, because you can always just keep sharing it live with people as you're putting the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah. Well, and like I was telling somebody this morning, man, like just doing the podcast itself, period, just being around all these people, like
changes your perspective.
It just changes. Yeah. I'm changing as I'm talking to like Jay Papasan and Michael Maher and Bob Berg and all these people. I'm really trying to get Brian Buffini on. He and I were just watching one of his videos a little while ago, and I just want somebody with a different accent than an American accent on my show.
Yeah, whatever you got to do to make it spicy,
That's
make it interesting.
Dude.
Yeah.
So
I actually had coffee the other day with Wendy Papasan, Jay's wife. They were out here in Austin.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really crazy, man.
She's really cool. She's probably one of the coolest chicks I've met in a minute. And their son actually goes to a school that's called like a tinkering school, and the whole school is built around entrepreneurialism. So the whole once a quarter or every like half a year or whatever, they'll have like a full thing where they actually sell goods and invite everybody there, and it's like a real thing where they break down all the spreadsheets of like your numbers, how to perform, what's your caps, what's your margins, on like product development, all the way.
I wish I had stuff like that.
I wish I would have learned some of that kind of stuff when I was. Man, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, duh. Why didn't anybody tell me this, 15 years ago?
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm with you on that, dude. This stuff, if you're not raised in a family where like that, it's modeled for you, like you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Know?
Yeah. Both my parents were school teachers, so they've never made more than 80,000 combined.
Yeah. I had a single mother that was a school teacher. So I didn't know anything about this stuff. She had a lot of opinions. Didn't know anything.
That's the thing. If you're a school teacher, your whole mindset is go to school so you can get a job. And that's the mindset of, successful people.
That was it, dude. My brothers that had advanced degrees were the most successful people in the family until I started making more money owning my own company. And then all of a sudden it wasn't the degrees. It was actually your bank account was who mom loved most. It was the most successful.
So you record this stuff on Facebook Live? Is that right?
So we got it recording here on Zoom, and we're streaming it out to Facebook Live right now. It's kind of like a teaser piece for people to see like a behind the scenes kind of look of like what happens. And then everybody from Facebook then, knows, hey, it's Real Estate Nerds Podcast. It's the behind the scenes look of like what it is. And that's how we just get more traffic for you guys and into the podcast. into it.
Cool. Awesome, man. Very cool.
Yeah, man. Well, let's kick off the episode, guys. We usually talk about like a best deal or a worst deal that we come across. Do you guys have some worst deals?
We do. I'm not sure if I can.
We're allowed to share them.
I don't want to get in trouble, but
well, leave out any names of like people that would be like, you know, defamation, right? About like, it's that fucking guy Bob screwed me. Probably is not a good thing to say, but otherwise I think we're probably good. To tell you the truth, what we find a lot of times over and over again is that for the written episodes is that almost every deal follows the same kind of arc. Everybody's always really excited on the front end, and that's why you got into the deal, right? Then there's something that happens after that you're like, this is where I learned a lesson, somewhere in the midpoint. And and then the end part of the story is usually like, here's how I saved it, or here's how I just had to eat it. And this is what I did next to recover into it. Because if you had to eat it, then there's a whole other cycle you have to do, which is how do you get back on the horse and learn from that lesson to get into it. But we can just kind of feel that out throughout the episode. I'll just walk you through it. It's just beginning, middle, and kind of chronologically.
Well, I can tell you, I mean, I could probably give you 3 or 4 really great ones, but let's
do the one big one, and let's just hop into the episode and we'll just start talking about it.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Sorry, I can tell you. Go ahead.
I'll just do a quick intro.
I'm used to being the guy on the other side talking.
Oh, all good, brother. Hi, and welcome to the Real Estate Nerds Podcast. I am your host, Scott Royal Smith. If you're watching this on Facebook Live right now, you probably just heard one of the best conversations that may have ever existed on the face of the internet. Just live and in charge. We give a behind-the-scenes look on Facebook Live before every single one of these episodes, guys. So if you're listening to this podcast, make sure to check it out on live and get the unadulterated content from me and the guests on here. I'm with 2 great friends of mine. I got to tell you, these are straight up awesome dudes that just like to do, real shit, real spit about like how stuff really works. And we were just talking about before the show popped off that our favorite part about podcasting is that the more we level up by the more people that we get to interact with through podcasting and professionally, the more we get to share it with other people, and how that's such a cool experience because we get to do all the high level networking for you and then just spit out the gems for you into the podcast and through these interviews. So if you're tuning into great shows like Real Estate Nerds or to Rookie Real Estate Podcast, you're going to be able to grab some of those gems. So I'm going to let the fellows introduce themselves and give a little bit of background. Today, we're going to be talking about a worst deal, which is where we know we learn our best lessons from other people, so we don't have to make the same mistakes ourselves. So guys, if you could introduce yourselves and just give us a brief synopsis of what are you guys doing right now in your life, the kinds of people you're helping, and give us a little background of what was going on before you got into your worst deal.
Well, my name is Art Kelly, and I'm the host of the podcast. And I am a full-time real estate agent with Benchmark Realty here in Middle Tennessee. We're in the Nashville area. And so we started the podcast about 1.5 years ago, something like that. About 1.5 years. Because we were both rookie agents. I've had my license for about 3 years, but really actively been selling for 2. So we started the podcast with the idea of, how can we learn? And so we started just interviewing people because we didn't know what the heck we were doing. And that's me. And this is Paul.
Yeah, I'm Paul. Background stuff. So I'm usually not on the. Stuff's changing.
No, you're good. It's coming.
Okay, I'm usually not on the actual podcast, but Art usually interviews, and I'm doing all the editing and background stuff, running our Instagram and all of that kind of thing. And I'm also a real estate agent. I've done 9 deals, 2 years I've been in the business. So a little slow on the real estate side, but we're doing a lot with the rookie real estate.
Awesome. Yeah. So, hey guys, so we got Art and Paul here today. They're from the Rookie Real Estate Podcast. They're both real estate agents. They're coming in here today, and we're going to be talking about a worst deal. So when did this worst deal happen?
Okay. So my worst deal, it was almost 2 years ago. I guess there's a few things that let me pre-qualify what a worst deal is. Like for me, a bad deal is when you go through a bunch of crap and you don't get paid a whole lot of money for it. And you probably learn more than you've ever learned on any one deal. That's usually how a bad deal, worst deal goes for me. So, but mine was, it was a lead program. I was working with the Weichert real estate organization at the time. And we would get these leads in and I think you pay after you get paid on them, you get like 35% taken out or whatever, minus then you got your split. And we met in their house, this house it was just a house they wanted to look at. And so we started talking a little bit and just kind of got the information. And they were really excited. You know, it was kind of an exciting moment for them as a couple that was about to get kicked out of their apartment. And so they called up the lead program or whatever, tried to find out something about the house. And that's how I ended up getting the lead. And so anyway, we met, we talked, and then they left. And on their way home, they drove through a neighborhood and they found a for sale by owner. And when they found the for sale by owner, they called me and they're like, hey, we're just driving around and this lady's like walking out the yard and she's putting a for sale by owner, sign in the yard, and we're driving by. And so they were really excited about, maybe getting a chance to buy a house. So anyhow, so I get into the process, start talking to the lady who's the homeowner. Well, as we start talking, this lady's gone through a divorce, the seller, and this is my first time dealing with a for sale by owner. So I'm learning how much work we're actually doing when we I'm taking on a buyer for sale by owner. Now I'm actually taking on that seller, all their information, and I got to write up all their half of the deal, but I can't say certain things because I don't represent her. But it just started getting sticky. And then my people come to find out they can't buy a house. So I'm like, well, why are we even looking? What are we, what's the deal here? Well, then mom, who's involved, who lives in Georgia. So we're in Nashville area. Mom lives in Georgia. They call mom's side. She's going to get involved and she's going to help to buy the house for her family. But it's a for sale by owner, and we got a buyer that's out of state. And so we start just talking and just kind of start trying to figure some things out. And well, as I'm talking to the mom, I find out there's like all kinds of family drama going on. So mom hates the wife and doesn't really have a very good relationship with her, but her son, who she's buying the house for, and their 3 kids, those are the ones that she's really buying the house for. And she just starts going on this tirade about this guy's wife. And, and I'm just sitting here going, okay, I'm sorry. What are you supposed to say, And so it just became this big giant, thing. So come to find out, mom had lost her husband like a year prior. So there was a lot of that angst going on, but she was a handful. I mean, she was just a handful. And so the whole time that I'm dealing with, so it really wasn't the deal as much as it was just the client.
Well, how do you do that? Because there's probably like a right way and a wrong way to do like client management. So like what went wrong with well, first of all, let's talk about, what is the right way in a theoretical context of how to do client management?
Yeah. Let me know when you figure that one out. Okay.
Well, one thing I've heard from people before about it is they talk about it saying like, you might have to be, it can almost feel like unpleasant, but it's like setting what all the expectations are going to be. I'm like,
well, that was it. I learned probably more, and this was almost 2 years ago. It was right at the beginning of my business, but I was learning, human beings are very emotional creatures, and this process lends itself to a very roller coaster emotion for buyers and sellers. And so emotional response of people who can't necessarily reel their emotions in. I remember I'm telling you, man, she was saying things about the seller that like she was just making stuff up. I mean, it was coming out of her, and she was just saying all these bad things about how the seller is trying to cheat her out of this and not communicating with her about this and what's she hiding. And, and I'm talking to the seller on the other side, and the seller on the other side is great. I mean, she's actually real easy to work with. The son and daughter were actually pretty easy to work with, but mom was super suspicious of everything that was going on. And so like, it was just this nightmare. And
oh my gosh, man, I was just thinking of is that like, this is where people bring their baggage from prior relationships into your relationship.
Yes.
This is like a bad girlfriend. It's just like, where are you coming from this from? Like, who hit you?
And all the while that this is going on, like in the back of my head, I'm going, I'm doing twice the work. I'm getting paid half the money, and I'm going through this headache, and that's it. I'm frustrated. It's nightmare. I'm just thinking, I'm not even, this isn't even going to happen. And I'm going through all this stress. And, but I had to learn how to keep my own cool through the whole process and just be that even keel person through that process.
Isn't that, I mean, one, that's like, that's some Zen stuff you're trying to do there, right? Like that's like that one of those like spiritual walks where it's like, you can burn me with that stick and I won't feel anything.
That's right.
Like,
walk over the coals.
Yeah, right. I mean, I know, like I try to do that, but it's tough to do. That takes like a lot of meditation and a lot of discipline to be like, all right, cool.
I'll agree with you there, man. I'm a deeply spiritual person. So I think that it's so funny because like I can't separate that part of what I do in my business from my personal life and all that kind of stuff. And that's a very, very important part of this. Cause I just have to go, okay, God, you've got this, you put this out here for these people and you open this door for them. So just let me be the instrument, the tool or whatever to help them get from point A to point B, and help me not to get caught up in all of the bull, and cause that's exactly what happens. So I mean, that's one of my worst. We ended up closing that deal. The mother finally came up like the week before we were supposed to close, and I met her face to face, and she was great. Like she was perfect by that time. But my goodness, the whole process was just like a roller coaster. And anyway, that was one of the worst, but I learned so much because it was a FSBO. It was a lead. I was having to do a lot extra work than what I thought I'd have to do. But those are those moments where you really do learn, like you said, man, how to really handle the emotional roller coaster of the people that you're dealing with.
Yeah, dude. I was wondering about that. Like, what do you do to, like part of this is that you can sniff out when you've gone down the wrong track once, right? Like, this deals look like it's going to be twice as much work. I'm not going to be making a lot of money out of it. This is going to take a lot of my resources to keep my, my shit together. Like while I'm having to deal with all these people. So it's a huge investment, both in time, but also like of yourself. Like how much of yourself do you actually have to, spend as like a currency of your, your spiritual energy, whatever you want to call it, right? Whatever that part is that we always feel like it's depleted after we have to deal with situations like that. And how do you, but what's tricky to me is that you can get into a place that's like that and it can start to go down that path. But when you pull the ripcord, it's never like one cut that was so bad that you had to break up.
Yeah.
It was like 1,000 little cuts that happen over a period of time, right? Yeah. And then pretty soon you find yourself in an abusive relationship and you're like, how did I end up here? I don't deserve this.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you do or that you learned about yourself or anything that you put in place now to like help you not go back down that same road?
I'll tell you, this is what I'm learning through all of these. And I've had several deals like this over the last year, learning how to have a long game view in everything that you're doing as a real estate agent. So yesterday I went to the son of that house. I actually went to their house yesterday. I was there. It's been a while, and I'm, and as I'm learning how to do this business and learning from some of the best agents and coaches around the country, I'm learning that your past clients are your best future clients, or they're your best referrals for future clients, right? They're your referral sources. So if you're going through this experience and understanding that, listen, if I have the long game in view, well, like this son and his wife, she's a physical therapist. He's a stay-at-home dad. I went by their house yesterday, brought him a couple little, cheap little, I made up these little flashlights, I mean, you're like $1.
Cool. Yeah.
At Walmart, but I put on it a little pot. It's a pop-by gift. It's got my name on it, my information. It says, "You and your referrals make my business shine." It's just great.
That is cute. That is cute.
But so I go to my past clients, and I went over, and I've been talking to him for a year about going, because he went and built out a section of his house, and so I wanted to go see the work that he had done, and I saw him and his kids and saw all the stuff that they've done to the house. And so that relationship is still there, even though it's been 2 years since I sold that house. And so what I'm learning in my business is that if I keep maintaining contact with the people that I've done business in the past, if I'd have gone, man, I'm just done. I'm not doing this deal anymore. If I hadn't hung in there with those people during that time, I wouldn't have had a pop-by conversation yesterday. And potentially he and his wife will be referral sources for me. And so if I'm wanting to build a business where I have to keep going back and always working hard just to try to get the next lead, that's one way to do business. But if I'm working my business in a way where I'm building relationships with the people that I'm serving and maintaining the long game relationship with them, those relationships will pay off in the long run. And we had some great conversations about his mom yesterday. She's definitely an interesting person. And, yeah, I mean, she ended up giving me a book at closing, that The Shack or whatever. She was a real deeply religious lady, and she wanted me to have a cool book. It was really interesting experience.
Yeah, well, it sounds like an interesting experience. Yeah. So I like to wrap every episode that we do of Real Estate Nerds with like a lesson learned from it. So the lesson that I think that I learned from today's episode with it is to really have that long game of looking at saying, what are we actually trying to create, today? If we keep our thinking really short term, if we keep our thinking really short term and we're not thinking the long term, we get caught up in the emotion of the present instead of keeping our mind focused on where does the long term need to go, and that can kind of mute out the from what I can hear you say, it kind of just mutes out all of the other pieces that can happen that could kind of frazzle us or something, because we're like, no, we got to keep it long. So if you were going to leave something with listeners as like a lesson learned from your talk here today, and it's like a takeaway for them, what would that be?
Yeah.
I would say just stick in there. Even with I've had hard clients too. You got to look at it like, if you want the paycheck for this closing too, I mean, that's one way to say, you just have to stick in there, and, some people are horrible people and you just have to deal with it until you get to your closing.
Yeah.
And then, like you were saying, stick after you get to there, do the best you can, just be the best you can be. And that's all you can control.
Yeah. I would add that, give people the benefit of the doubt. You never know what else is going on. There's always stuff that's going underneath the surface of everything. I mean, there's conversations that couples are having at their bedside at night that you're not there, you're not present. You don't know what their marriage is like. You don't know if they just lost a dad or a husband or a spouse. Those are all things that contribute to stress when people are making the biggest financial decision they'll ever make, which is buying a house. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, personality, mental disorders, people have those issues. And so we have to deal with, and we're dealing with people. We're not dealing with brick and mortar houses. We're dealing with people. And so I guess my takeaway would just be, give people the benefit of the doubt and keep the long game in view.
No, that's very cool, man. I have one thing I'd recommend for you, Art. I know it was just coming to me while you were talking, and where your thinking is at right now, and based upon what you just said. There's a guy who I studied, and his name is Marshall Rosenberg, and he works at the Center for Nonviolent Communication.
Yeah.
And I think he might be retired now, or he might also be dead. I'm not really sure. It's been a while since I've caught up with the guy's work. But it blew my mind. And what his premise was, and he has like tons of these live videos from doing this stuff in conferences with people. But his thesis was that he could get anybody to agree to a compromise or to an agreement, come to an agreement from within 10 minutes, any problem they have, after they could tell and clearly identify what the other person was needing and feeling. They said once both people can identify what the other person is needing and feeling in that moment, that the solutions will just come. The solutions are actually very easy. But what's hard is for people to get in sync about what they're needing and feeling. And this comes, I think, is based very much in the principles of what you're talking about, where you don't know where the people are coming from. We probably make assumptions about what they're needing and feeling from our own frame of reference, but we're not really hearing it from them. And if we can, the more that we can hear it from them of where they're needing and feeling, the more empathy we can get, and the more we can give them whatever it is that they're needing that moment, which is probably why they're acting crazy. It's because they have some unmet needs, around security or safety or people taking advantage of them, where we're going to be, right?
Yeah.
And his work actually does a lot of training into how to do that on the fly very, very quickly. It's probably one of the biggest tools that I have in my toolbox for how to connect with people.
Cool. Marshall Rosenberg, you said?
Marshall Rosenberg with the Center of Nonviolent Communication. And he has some weird stuff in there too. So don't get thrown off on that when he comes out with like sock puppets of like wolves and giraffes and stuff. It gets real weird real quick. All right. Like into it. But
what about Bob there, right?
Yeah, right. Into that. But that's cool, man. Hey, so for everybody that wants to hook up with you, Art and Paul, and the Rookie Real Estate Podcast, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you? We're going to have some notes here in the show, of course, for links and whatnot, but maybe you can reiterate that for us.
Yeah, our website is stayrookie.com. Our whole premise of the rookie mindset is that when you're a rookie, you're humble, open-minded, and willing to learn. You're teachable. And so if you stay rookie throughout the life of your business, you'll do well, you'll go far. So that's why we have a website. It's called stayrookie.com. And then the podcast, Paul, you can tell me.
Yeah, the podcast, we're on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify, and Instagram, Rookie Real Estate Podcast on Instagram.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys so much for coming on the show here today. Thank you everybody that tuned in for the Real Estate Nerds Podcast. So either on Facebook Live, you're watching this video on YouTube, or if you're catching us on the podcast itself. So appreciate you guys coming on the show. Everybody connect with us here up through Royal Legal Solutions. We're also going to be launching all of our groups. They're going to be custom specific groups to individual classes of real estate investors. So we're going to have a group that's just single family, a group that's just notes, a group that's just apartment complexes. We have over 3,000 clients across the country. We're going to start bringing my clients together and getting them to talk to everybody here in the groups as, what are the people that are really doing real stuff, really making moves. Everybody that works with me are all real people. They've all made moves. That's why they've invested inside of their asset protection and their tax and their estate planning and all of the pieces that they need for the foundations for growth. Because that's what all my clients are into, is like, how can I have a better life and how can I grow? And so come connect with us through our Facebook groups and join our mailing list. And you can do that just by going to royallegalsolutions.com and signing up for the newsletter. That's how you're going to get the top quality content coming out of real estate, out of Royal Legal Solutions each week. Each Friday, we blast you out a newsletter that has the top 5 things, the top 5 pieces of content that I've released that week, whether it's guests from podcasts, articles I've written, places that I've published, and what's the new and upcoming live events that we have. It's our 5-bullet Friday, so to speak, of what you need to know about what we're putting out, how it can help you. That's that newsletter on royallegalsolutions.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. Catch you later.
Awesome.